What's poppin', guys? To meet you bros one game, and welcome to this video where we'll be discussing whether or not Overwatch truly copied Team Fortress 2. These two games have often been compared to each other due to their similar gameplay and art style, which has led to speculation about whether or not Overwatch was heavily inspired by TF2 or if it simply borrowed some ideas from the game. In this video, we'll be analyzing both games and exploring the similarities and differences to come to a conclusion on whether or not Overwatch copied TF2. First, let's look at the similarities between the two games. Both Overwatch and TF2 are class-based first-person shooters, where players choose from a range of characters with unique abilities to complete objectives. The classes in both games are also similar, with classes such as the Sniper, an Engineer, and a Heavy being present in both of the games. Both TF2 and Overwatch have a game mode called Payload. In TF2, the game mode involves one team pushing a cart along a track while the other team tries to stop them. The cart moves when the players from the pushing team are standing near it, and the game ends when the cart reaches the end of the track or the defending team successfully stops the attackers. Similarly, in Overwatch, the Payload game mode involves one team pushing a payload along a track while the other team tries to stop them. The payload moves when the players from the pushing team are standing near it, and the game ends when the payload reaches the end of the track or the defending team successfully stops the attackers. Seems pretty similar, but other games have also had that, so we can probably mark that out. Another one they have is Control Point. Both TF2 and Overwatch have a game mode obviously called Control Point. In TF2, the game mode involves both teams fighting to capture and hold control points on a map. The team that captures all the control points or holds the most control points when the timer runs out wins the game. Similarly, in Overwatch, the control game mode involves both teams fighting to capture and hold control points on a map. The team that captures the most control points or holds the most control points when the timer runs out wins the game. These are just a few examples of the similarities between the game modes in TF2 and Overwatch. However, it's important to note that while the game modes may share similarities, there's also significant differences in how they are played and the strategies required to win, because map size and the amount of players that are needed for both. However, despite these similarities, there are also significant differences between the two games. For example, Overwatch has a much larger roster of heroes than TF2, with currently 32 playable heroes as compared to TF2's 9 classes. The abilities of the heroes in Overwatch are more diverse and complex than those in TF2. Additionally, Overwatch features ultimate abilities that are unique to each character, whereas TF2 does not have such abilities. Furthermore, the art style and design of those two games are also different. While both games have a cartoonish art style, Overwatch has a more polished and refined look, with more detail and texture in its character designs and environments. TF2, on the other hand, has a more simplistic and exaggerated style that is reminiscent of old-style cartoons. Another key difference between the two games is their release dates. Team Fortress 2 was released in 2007, while Overwatch released in 2016, nearly a decade later. This time difference means that Overwatch was developed after TF2, which suggests that any similarities between the two games may have been the result of inspiration rather than copying. But many of these characters share similarities in terms of their roles and abilities. For example, Scout and Tracer. The Scout in TF2 is a fast and agile class that specializes in hit and run tactics. Similarly, the hero Tracer in Overwatch is a highly mobile character that can blink through space and rewind time to avoid attacks and get behind enemy lines. But the difference being, obviously, the ultimate and how they're played. She doesn't really have like a bat and a shotgun. She's more of just literally a hit and run. So, I mean, Scout, kind of a hit and run if you really think about it. But their playstyles and weapons are different. That's going to be the whole thing. Their playstyles and weapons are all different. Like Soldier and Pharah. The Soldier in TF2 is a versatile class that has access to a rocket launcher, which allows him to deal damage both at range and in close quarters combat. The hero Pharah in Overwatch also has a similar playstyle, using her rocket launcher to deal heavy damage from a distance while also having the ability to launch herself into the air for better positioning. Some other characters are Pyro and Mei, which the Pyro in TF2 has a close range class that uses a flamethrower to deal damage and set enemies on fire. Similarly, the hero Mei in Overwatch uses a freeze ray to slow down enemies using an icicle gun to deal damage at close range. So I guess you can kind of draw a similarity there, but I mean it's kind of like a pyromaniac and like a frostmaniac or whatever it is. So I guess you can kind of draw a conclusion. But one of the main points, there's a few characters that are like main points that are kind of hand in hand, which would be Demoman and Junkrat. Which, Demoman is a class that uses explosives to deal heavy damage to enemies and control areas of the map. And Junkrat has a grenade launcher and a variety of explosives that control the battlefield and deal damage to multiple enemies at once. That's pretty close. Another one would be Engineer and Torbjorn, where the engineer in TF2 is a class that can build sentry guns, dispensers, and teleporters to aid his team. Similarly, the hero Torbjorn in Overwatch can build turrets to automatically target and attack enemy players, as well as armor packs that give his allies additional health. Those two have always been hand in hand of did or did not did Overwatch copy TF2. I mean, there's a couple others like Sniper or Widowmaker, where Sniper, but they're all gonna have snipers. Almost every first-person shooter is gonna have snipers like that. But one of the special ones is Spy and Sombra, where the Spy in TF2 is a class that can disguise himself as the enemy team and backstab enemies for high damage. Similarly, the hero Sombra in Overwatch is a stealth-based hero that can hack enemy abilities, go invisible, and teleport short distances. Another one, which is kind of just the heavy is like a broad class, but one of the main similar characters would be Bastion, because heavy in TF2 is a class that's heavily armored. Well, not armored, but just is heavy, man. And he can sustain a lot of damage while dealing heavy damage with his minigun. The hero Bastion in Overwatch has a similar playstyle, being a heavily armored hero that can transform into a turret and deal heavy damage to enemies. Another one would be Medic and Mercy. The Medic in TF2 is a class that can heal and support his teammates with a medigun. Similarly, the hero Mercy in Overwatch was able to heal teammates with a staff while also boosting their damage output with the damage boost beam. And recently, I did a video on what medigun is the best for Medic, so you might want to go check that out. It's going to be up there if you want to look at it. But yeah, so these are just a few examples of the similarities between the 9 classes of TF2 and Overwatch. However, it's important to note that while the characters might share similar roles or archetypes, their abilities, playstyles, and personalities are distinct and unique to each game. In conclusion, while there are certain similarities between Overwatch and TF2, it would be inaccurate to say that Overwatch copied TF2. Both games share a genre and some character archetypes, but Overwatch's gameplay, hero abilities, art style, and release date all differentiate it from TF2. It's also important to note that inspiration is a natural part of game development. It's not uncommon for developers to take ideas from other games and build upon them in their own unique ways. Well, that's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what game you prefer and why. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming content, and we'll see you in the next video. Signing off.